when I woke up in the morning, knowing that I was going in to see the first cut of the film, I was a bit like, I don't know, a bit anxious, a bit nervous because obviously I knew I'd done it, but I didn't know how it was all going to look when it was all put together, from I don't know, I guess the like just how it was going to look, like all the filmy bits and all that kind of stuff that they were going to do to make it look more than
Mhm.
just like an hour and a half long interview or whatever it was. But I remember when it finished, me and Claire, we just sort of like sat there for like 15 seconds in like silence. I was like, why? Wow. Like I was blown away by it, but it was weird. It was very weird watching something that was all about me, but as I've said to a few people, it was like I was watching something about someone who I didn't know, even though it was me. No, I wouldn't say it was just, I guess, when before we even started filming this whole thing, like obviously we had a few meetings with Sam and the Whisper team, and um I said, like, if we do this, like, I want to make sure that this is very authentic, almost like realistic, and I want it to be me. I don't want it to be like a PR thing where it's like, right, let's just make it all good and you know prim and proper and like all about the good stuff. Like I said, if we do, I want it to be everything in there. Like I want it to be I want it to be seen as like an account that's showing for all of the good stuff, but then also not the such a good stuff that's gone on in obviously that's publicly known, but in more detail. And they were very happy after I explained that, because that's exactly how they wanted it to be, in the direction that they seen it going in. I guess like, a great way to explain everything is what I felt I was able to do in this is to be able to speak a lot more about certain things, and it was almost a way of showing that just because something is ended doesn't mean it's the end of it. Like, my wife Claire, when she was speaking about it, explained it very well about the Bristol thing, where people might look at that and think, oh, as soon as the trial was over and the verdict came in, people might assume, oh, that would just be the end of it. But what that was is that was the end of one part and then the start of something else to do with it. And going back to that stuff about the sun, it was like a great example of that. Is you think about how long ago that happened, that it then came up again at and these things are always going to have some kind of effect on people's lives, however long down the road it is. And there's many other things as well. Obviously it was taking a break, the way that it affects people more than what you think, and the people who are close to them. It's not a case of just, oh, that bit's finished, so that's all done and dusted now. Like, that's not the case. And I think this really shows that things can happen to people, but that doesn't mean that it's gone away. There's always going to be long-lasting effects of situation towards people. Like even Bristol, again, for me, like, it was a long time ago, but there's still going to be long-lasting effects of that. Like someday, my kids are now getting older, I'm going to have to sit down with them one day and explain the whole situation to them, because what we don't want to happen is for them to just, I don't know, other people to know about it and then ask them and speak to them about it, and they're like, what are you on about? I don't know what you mean. So you know what I mean? Like, everything still has an effect, no matter how far down the line you are of an event happening. Let's say if other people like get the opportunity to do something like this, like what I would do is I would really encourage them to be as open and as honest as they possibly could, because when you get the opportunity to do something like this, it's a real opportunity for you to be you and actually show like people that you're not exactly what you are on with what you do. Like, people are going to have an idea of what I am because of how I am on the cricket field, or how I am in a press conference, or talking to the media, but that's not the whole story. That's a very small part of me that you see, that people get to see. What people don't get to see is me being me, back in where I grew up in Cockermouth with my friends, or when I'm at home with my kids, or you know, when I'm not being Ben Stokes, the cricketer, if that makes sense. And that was, you know, a real nice thing for me to be able to do, is that, you know what, I'm doing this, not being scripted or not being told to do this. I'm not being told to, can you be more like this? Can you be a bit more upbeat? You know, no, actually, I didn't like the way that came across. Can we do this again, but run it differently? It was just, no, you just be you. Like, that's what we want. And it was something that I really enjoyed, sort of being given the free rein to do. Yeah, I guess so. And like, you know, I'm sure people will look at that, and people, especially even people who know me for a very long time, they might get more of an understanding of the way that I am because of how I am with my dad. You know, like, obviously they moved back to New Zealand when I was 21. So, you know, it's not really a case where my family and my parents are all around and you can, like, other people, you can go like, oh God, like, you can totally see why he is like that, because when you meet the parents and stuff. But, you know, obviously my moving back to the other side of the world, that wasn't the case with me. But it'd be interesting to see if, after watching this, people might go, actually, you know what, I can totally see why Ben is like he is, because of, you know, how he speaks about his dad, or how his dad was when he was playing sport, or just anything like that. Yeah. But yeah, like, obviously when I was watching the film back for the first time, like, I've only watched the first cut, I've not watched any more. You've watched the finished version. Unfortunately, I haven't, because I wanted to be a surprise as well. Yeah, I really liked how that kind of the family stuff back home with mum and dad, like, came across, and it was just, you know, like, yeah, pretty genuine. Get a good understanding of maybe why I am like I am. I would say that one thing about, you know, the way that cricket is at the moment with the schedule and stuff like that, is that it just needs to be looked at personally just a bit more sensibly about, you know, 3 formats need to stay around cricket, because it's the, you know, it's cricket. You know, there's test matches, there's one day cricket, there's T20. You know, I'm not one to say that we need to get rid of one for the other two to be sustainable or successful. I'm saying the schedule and everything needs to be looked at for all 3 formats to be sustainable for the people who want to play all 3 formats, because unfortunately at the moment, the way the schedule is done, that is not sustainable for people to be able to do. You know, the way I feel that people are now looking at the schedule is they're looking so far down the line to see, right, when can I take a break? What series do I need to miss? Which one isn't as important? Every series should be important when you're playing for your country. But overlapping series, you know, like, we had a test match series and a one-day series going at the same time. Like, to me, that's just mad. And yeah, every series, every game that you play for your country is as important as the other when you think about it. Like, obviously that's not the real case, because some series are bigger than others, like the Ashes over playing New Zealand, but you still want to be playing because you're playing for your country. But unfortunately, the way that things are now, you've got to look at the schedule and go, right, where can I take a break? Because I can't keep doing this over and over again, because, you know, I want to be playing for as long as I can. So yeah, I think it just needs to be looked at more sensibly in terms of how can we make the schedule more realistic for people to still be able to play all 3 forms.